Off. Here. Ms. Weeks. Here. Ms. Pandolfi, Dr. Pandolfi, I'm sorry. Present. Ms. Munyon.
Here.
Mr. Laziale is not here. Ms. Stepp. Dr. Wilson, Mr. Cook.
Here.
Mrs. Virgo. Here. Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, for those who wish, we can join in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you, Lord. This matter is to approve the agenda, so if anybody wishes to review it, we'll entertain a motion. Can you move second? Second. Any discussion? None. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstaining? Thank you. Next matter for vote is the consent agenda. Let's take a moment to review it. I'll entertain a motion.
Approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you, Brent. Second.
Second.
And second, any discussion? It's not okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Abstaining? None. Good. Answer reports.
Just for the record, there were no good comments.
Also, the first page, the total amount of tax revenue we have received by the end of May. The amount is close to $61.6 million. I believe we will receive over $61.6 million for the whole year. The budgeted amount is $61.2 million. So that's about $300,000 more than budget. The total amount of operating revenue is about $56.5 million. Next page is the operating expenditures. For payroll and benefits, we spent about close to $30.5 million. That's close to 90% of the budget. I believe we will be very close to the budgeted amount at the end of the fiscal year. Library materials, that's close to $9.4 million, over 81% of the budget. All other operational accounts are $8.2 million, over 77% of the budget. Next page is a summary of the capital plan. The entire capital plan, from very beginning, we spent about $111.6 million. And the estimated amount to complete is about $20 million. The detail of the capital plan has been posted to the board docs. The next page is the debt service fund. There was no change to the debt service fund. We have made 2 payments for the whole fiscal year. The next one is the health insurance fund. The total amount of contribution from employee and employer is I'm on the health insurance fund page.
It's up on this screen. It's not up on that screen.
Okay. Yeah, the statement is on the next screen. Okay, the total amount of contribution for employee and employers is close to $3.5 million. That's 91% of the budget. The amount for administration fee and the stop loss insurance is close to $1.1 million. That's about $100,000 more than budgeted. Medical claims is close to $2.5 million. That's below the budget amount. 76% of the budget. Starting next year, we will show separate lines for administration fees and the stop loss insurance. At the end of the month, we have about close to $1.6 million cash on hand. And the fund balance is about $1.2 million. That's my report for the month.
Thank you. Juan, any questions? No questions. Okay, we can go to old business or unfinished business. So for committee reports, finance and audit.
Okay. First item on the agenda is the status of the CFO system scoping project. That was the RFP was completed in May. It was sent out at the end of May. We're waiting for responses, which we hope to have all, or at least hope we get responses by the end of June. There will be timeline is to do reviews and interviews during the month of July with an official engagement recommendation following that. And then, as we noted last meeting, there's no change. We are targeting for the project to be completed by early to mid-December. At least with the staff that has to get done. The report will probably spill over into January or February. So there's no other activity on that at this point. Any questions? Okay. The next item, 6.4, is the budget. I'm just going to review again what has transpired this year. Some things you know, but I'll just repeat this. As you recall, Aaron recommended, and we agreed to put together an ad hoc budget committee to kickstart the process. That was done on February 23rd. Aaron and staff laid out the goals for the year in developing the budget and the action plans. Thereafter, in March and April, the committees put together and presented their respective budgets and plans. Those were reviewed and again approved by the committees as appropriate. At the May meeting, the finance committee worked through the details of the budget just to make sure everything was in sync and to answer any remaining questions. The ad hoc committee then met again on May 9th. There were no changes coming out of that meeting. The board was then presented with the draft of the budget at the May board meeting. We then approved the levy hearing. The levy hearing was held on June 9th at the Independence branch, received public comments at that point. And so you have in front of you what is the proposed final annual budget in the book. There have been no changes from May, is that correct? So I don't intend to walk through it. We spent a fair amount of time at the May finance meeting having Jennifer walk through the details and the other committee meetings in the previous meetings. So if you have comments, I'll let you make those now.
No real comments other than thank you to the board and staff for helping us work through this budget this year. Just to reiterate our priorities, our funding priorities for this coming year are personnel, capital projects, financial accountability, and innovation. Because personnel and staff are our priority, investment in people is what matters to us most. I've opted to put person on the front of our budget this year. But nonetheless, it's a great reminder as to why we're here and what we're investing in. It's young people and it's literacy. And I think that's effectively communicated by what some of these cover. That and nothing else to say.
Okay, so to get the discussion on the floor, I'm going to, the committee obviously approved and made the recommendation to bring the budget to the board. So the recommendation from the Finance and Audit Committee to the full board is to adopt the budget as presented to you and as presented, as was presented in May with no changes. Second on that.
That's a motion. Second, it's been discussion, further discussion. None. Okay, all in favor of the adoption of the recommendation of the Finance and Audit Committee, the full board.
Roll call.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Sure.
Ms. Luncheon,
Yes.
Dr. Pandolfi. Aye. Mr. Sondermeyer.
Yes.
Ms. Stepp. Ms. Lees. Yes. Dr. Wilson. Ms. Whitehoff. Yes. Ms. Virgo.
Yes.
Mr. Coe.
Yes.
Johnson.
Aye.
Mr. Lazio. Mr. Deep.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Any more from the committee?
Nothing else from finance.
And then the
We do have an item that's further in the agenda.
okay, nomination committee.
The nominee officer nominating committee, again, this committee was appointed in, I don't remember exactly. We had the initial meeting to discuss the officer slate. Our directive was to bring an officer slate to the board for the July meeting that would serve for the next 2 years. At our first meeting, everyone was present. We discussed the situation, and it was unanimously believed by the committee that stability is an important matter here. So the slate was recommended at that point. I then had discussions with each of the proposed officers, all of whom have accepted their nomination and expressed their willingness to continue to serve on the board. We had a meeting about 40 minutes ago, to make a final recommendation and vote on the slate. So the officer slate that will be presented at the July meeting will be Ron Thies for president, Michael Lazio for vice president, Bob Johnson for treasurer, and Teresa Johnson as the secretary. Obviously, there are no changes in that. And then there will be, if there are nominations, there will be additional nominations can be made at the meeting at that point, at the July meeting. So that's the slate, that's the report.
Okay, thank you. Technology committee.
Thank you. We have some very exciting things to share and from our meeting yesterday, and Brian has some slides that he's going to share with us.
Yeah, so thank you, Lori, and thank you, Joycelyn, for being there. Yesterday, we had a good meeting. We talked about all things website and how we host it and how we take care of it and everything. So Lori wanted me to include just a few slides in the meeting tonight, just about some activity around the website. It's not stats related or anything like that. Just remember that any stats that we do does not equate to like door count or anything like that in a building. It's strictly how people use the website, how we can gauge usage on the website. But Cody, if you could go to the next slide, thank you. So these few slides are from kind of a every 6 month survey roundup that we do with the company that hosts our website and helps us work on it. They're called interpersonal frequency. And so this first slide is kind of frequency of visits. So this is kind of how often users come to the website and actually use the website. You can actually see that we have a lot of active users on the website. Daily, monthly, weekly equals up to like 65% of our usage, which is really great. But we also have a lot of first-time users. and quarterly and annual users. But I thought this was really great to see that we have a lot of active usage of the website. So we kind of wanted to share that slide with everybody. Cody, go ahead. So this one's kind of interesting. This is usage by device type. And before COVID, we had a lot of people that were trending towards mobile and tablet usage, but during COVID, it went to more desktop usage because people were at home and using more devices in their home, and now it's trending back to more mobile. And so that seems pretty normal to me. But it's just really interesting to see that trend, and it's a pretty even flip from desktop to mobile as people kind of get back out of the house and everything, so which is really great. Go ahead, Cody. This one is a couple of graphs. This is site success and site satisfaction. So it kind of asks if people found what they were looking for, if they were satisfied with what they're looking for, and that's actually trending upwards as we come out, which is really nice to see. The green is success and the blue line is satisfaction. And so that's all trending upwards, which is very nice to see. Okay, last one, Cody. And so this one is purpose of visit. You can see the big blue line there on the left-hand side it's called browse branch, but this is actually people going to the catalog and looking for books. Is basically what it is. That's a huge percentage of the usage of the website. And then there's a pretty even split between services, research, and events, and browse digital. So digital materials are in there also. So you can see there's still people are looking for a lot of physical books still and want to get in there and get those. Yeah, so that's kind of just a brief look. There's a whole bunch more to this report, obviously. But these are just kind of some interesting facts about the website and its general usage that we wanted to put in there. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Lori.
I just might comment that on the website about all this whole internet magic that Brian does. Last week, I believe it was, there's an incredible presentation on all things of Italian cuisine. We had Mrs. Pemberton there who facilitated the meeting. There was a chef there, and just last evening, Mark at the Story Center, an hour and a half presentation on different literary genre, which is just absolutely fantastic. And I can only assume that the quality of all the presentations are the same. What's amazing about it, you have this at home without having to literally go to a physical building to get the value of what's available. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, Technology and Building Committee.
Aaron and I are going to tag team this. So the building committee has not met formally as a committee in several months. We have two major building projects going underway right now. New projects, let me say. East Independence, which is up out of the ground, and Riverside, and there's a groundbreaking. And it's important for the board to understand at this point, our projects are being managed by something called an owner representative. This was Aaron's choice, and it made a lot of sense. Aaron and I were on a call with Ellis Katz. I think he will be joining us shortly, or he's already online. And Steve Thompson, both of them are involved with a firm called Project Management Consultants. If you look at their website, it'll be very, very evident to you is that they're a very capable national firm. Of point to us is that they work closely on museums, and they work closely on libraries, and so they come to us with good background and good experience. Aaron and I had a conversation with them recently online and met with them. Steve Thompson is here in town in Kansas City, and Ellis Katz is in Cleveland. And we thought it was sort of appropriate because understand if we have questions about what's going on in East Independence and what's going on in Riverside, these are the parties that we turn to because they're representing us. In the time that I've been on the library board, I think Susan Ray has built a building. Juan has built a building, and we used to have this in our library staff, and you looked at, see, these are MLS sort of functions, and then we went to having a staff person on hand. This is a different model, and this is why we felt it was important that we understand who they are, hear from them sort of directly, and then understand how it is that they're here to assist us in the completion of our two major projects.
Thanks. So with us is Ellis Katz, and I'm not sure, is Steve here today, Ellis, or?
Yeah, he's on the phone.
Yeah, and Steve Thompson. So as Brent said, there are onerous reps that are working on independence and oversight, and I thought we would take a few minutes to learn a little bit more about their work, and they could give us a brief overview of the progress we've made to date at both locations. So Ellis and Steve, I'll turn it over to you. And Cody, maybe if you could enlarge Ellis' head.
Do you have to do that?
All right, there we can see you. Very good. All right.
It's a pleasure to meet everybody at the board virtually. I'm hoping to meet you in person. With me today, as Aaron and Brent noted, is Steve Thompson. He is a Kansas City native. There he is. He popped into the screen. We are your advocate. We are here to be an extension of your staff, to be looking out for you and your best interest when it comes to the design documents that were put by the architect, managing that, looking at your budget, looking at your schedule, and then overseeing the construction by J.E. Dunn. We have a lot of experience. We have experience working with J.E. Dunn. In fact, both Steve and I worked on the Lowe's Kansas City project. So we're very familiar with Kansas City and how do things get built in town. We welcome you to visit that project. It came in on time and under budget, and we hope to do the same thing for you. We've been around for over 20 years. We do projects, as Brent mentioned, in the K through 12 higher education. We do museums. Those also include, some of these projects do include libraries. Some of them are standalone libraries. So we do that. We know how to do the work. We've been doing it for a long time. Both Steve and I are recovering architects, we like to say, and we both, I think collectively, Steve, we have probably close to 80 years of experience, I would say. And so we've been around the block a little bit. So that's just a little brief introduction about the firm. I'm the director of Owners Rep Services, but who you're going to see all the time is Steve, because he's there on the ground. He's out in the job sites. So Steve, why don't you give a little overview of Riverside and East Independent as you're seeing them right now?
All right, I might be interrupted because my Zoom is updating and trying to join. Let's see, I'm on my phone. No.
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'll just stay on the phone. Riverside has finished the vibratory stone columns, soil amendment or reinforcement for the soils conditions that we found there. Those went a lot faster than we thought, and it's gone well. PCI was testing everything, and everything's working. Provides a small challenge on coordinating underground utilities, but Tristan has been working through those. We met last week with Evergy, and they've been very cooperative on where they're going to locate permanent and temporary power to the site. On East Independence, they've completed the steel erection. They've poured in the last of their diamond joints around columns. They're laying most of the deck, and acoustical deck is now down. They're going to start the building skin later this week, I believe. So it's going very, very well. Weather has cooperated with us. So the drawings are in good shape. I think it's going to go great.
Okay, thanks. If any of the board have questions for Ellis and Steve, we're happy to answer them. Steve, you're making me dizzy.
Turn your camera off, Steve.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Just one other comment. They shared a review of the architectural drawings with me, and I had a chance to look at them and notations. I noted some things, and then sometimes it's like anybody that produces a piece of work, whether it's writing or something like that, we all benefit from somebody reviewing what we do because we might not see it clearly as we need to. So they've been very, very thoughtful. They've been very, very thorough, and it's great for us to have them on board to finish these last two major projects.
Great. All right, well, thank you both. Taking time out of your evening, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
And thank you.
All right, see you, Steve.
Yep.
Nothing more.
Okay.
I mean, other than if staff has something they can report about North Oak, I mean, that should be nearing completion. Is it not?
That was weird.
We're getting close. Richie, correct me if I'm wrong, but the elevator has been delivered to.
Has been delivered. They're doing a few modifications and they're supposed to start installation exit Monday.
That's the big news of
Yes,
some
sir.
two
Yes, sir.
projects.
In Great Valley?
Moving along, I think, Jim, do you have anything?
I was out there, walls are up. They're working on some of the floor already. Doing some things that I don't know what they are, and the walls, I should say. So I'm probably the last person you want to get an update from.
You're not on this team.
There's a building, yeah, there is a building, and it looks great.
How's the address going?
The address is coming along. That's been harder than it ought.
I bring that up because most of the emails this week have to do with the exact address of the Green Valley branch. But Jim also has done great work with the zoning of a sign in North Oak, which we kind of met in the middle, I'd say. And we've got approval to move forward with that sign that kind of sits out by the street. So thank you, Jim and Richie, for all your
Sign
hard
in
work.
Kansas City having issues.
A little bit.
Yeah, more on that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It goes to the-
Right.
But we're gonna have a sign.
That's the report. I just want to make sure we covered the 4 projects because even though we talked about East Independence and Riverside, we have 2 that are nearing completion. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Brian. Fundraising, Michael is not here, but anything that?
Sure. We are a little under a month out from our annual fundraising event, the Legacy Luncheon, as you've heard us talk about at several meetings. It's July 14th on Friday. So thanks to those of you who have bought a table or a ticket. And we have about 80 seats left. So if you haven't signed up, there's still plenty of time to do that. We are changing the format a little bit just to shorten it up because we kind of push our limits on time as past events. And so one of the things that we'd like to do at Legacy Luncheon is introduce Aaron to our community partners and our donors and retirees. And rather than have him do a very stuffy State of the Union or State of the Library address, we thought of a kind of a fun and unique way to introduce him to that group. And so yesterday we met with a group called Book Ninjas, which is a self-formed book club of children. And they interviewed Aaron. So we had a great time. And the picture isn't up. So I'm gonna get some. Oh, okay. For those I didn't know you could see it. So that's a picture of Aaron and the Book Ninjas. And they were pretty hard on him. Questions. So we have about 45 minutes of interview that we have to condense down into about a 4 or 5 minute video. So looking forward to seeing how that ends up for the luncheon. So
Yeah, we laugh, but the one that's kind of leaning into me was the first to enter the room. I think seconded by Ruby, but I noticed each had their questions written down in a piece of paper in their hand. And Diana was kind and offered up some kind of softball questions for them, and they used none of them.
they came with their own questions. So
Really, they hit me hard. So it was a great conversation, and it's a testimony to the great work they're doing out there in Whitney's branch. It's a lovely group of young ladies. That's it.
Yeah, I just might follow up on, certainly encourage everybody who doesn't yet have a ticket for the Legacy Lunch to consider it. It's a great event. And it certainly gives a chance to acknowledge the people who have been the pioneers of this library system, retired from their positions here, and they absolutely are worthy of great, great affection for, because they're the ones who laid the foundation for what we have right now. Committee.
Personnel committee hasn't met in a while, but probably right around after the start of a new fiscal year, we plan on bringing a couple of smaller issues to the board. We'll start to collect issues that we need to address. So, look forward to that.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, so now it's time for the librarian's report. Let's go with the most important first. So hot off the press, today we received notice that the GFOA has given us a certificate of achievement for excellence in financial reporting. And this is entirely due to the hard work and brilliant mind of Kwan. And again, Kwan, correct me if I'm wrong, is it our 12th year in a row?
Yes.
Yeah. So 12 years in a row that we've received the certificate. And again, we're very thankful for the hard work that he does. And I want to make everyone aware. Then a round of applause for Kwan. Okay, next up, we have two wonderful people. We have Stephen and Abigail from the Excelsior Springs branch. Excelsior is one of these branches that stands out to me because before I even arrived in Missouri, a local reporter reached out to me, and I think it was either the first or second interview that I gave. And I love the name of the community. And then now I visited it, I love it even more. But I've invited both Stephen and Abigail to kind of give us a little bit of an overview of the work they're doing. And if you remember, last week, we gave MCPL, gave Abigail the Maggie Jackson Award for Excellence, if I'm not mistaken. And we all went out there, we had sugary cake, and it was a wonderful afternoon. And again, thank you for all your hard work. So if you guys would come on up and tell us a little bit about what's happening.
I'll start. Stand next to me.
All right.
Yeah, so I'm Stephen Chalmers, the branch manager at the Excelsior Springs branch. I've been working there since 2010. For about a year before that, I worked at the Platte City branch as the assistant manager after I moved up here from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is where I'm from. So I like this weather. It's kind of what I'm used to. Actually, be a mild day. So I actually earlier this year just hit my 20-year anniversary of working in public libraries. And during that time, I started out as a children's librarian and served in a variety of different capacities. And then I became a branch manager down in Baton Rouge, branch manager here, which allows me to be involved in a little bit of everything. So one of the main things, and I know it's going to sound like I'm echoing a lot of what Michael said last month, but one of the main things that I've always been very interested in and pursued a lot is outreach. And the reason for that is because it's the way to reach the most people. When we do story time at the library, we do it a couple of times a week. We might get 15 or 20 kids, but we can go out and see in that same week many times more kids if we go to preschools and daycares. So that's something that I've always been very involved in, both as a children's librarian in the past and encouraging it for my staff to conduct those kind of business as a branch manager. But there are a number of things that we've worked with over the years, or that I've worked with. Some of the things that I personally am most proud of since I've been with MCPL are, two programs in particular. My first week at Platte City, I started the week of the Veteran Salute, which back then was at the Platte City branch, which is close to Leavenworth, where a lot of the presenters came from. So I kind of got thrown in my very first week and spent that entire week working with that program, which was great for me because I was a veteran. At that time, I'd been out of the Navy I got out in 93, so it had been a while. But it was a way to get me kind of involved with a lot of the veterans and veterans groups that work with that program and have worked with that program over the years as well. I ended up being in charge of the program for a few years. And then when Dylan Little became the community programming manager, we kind of split duties on that. And eventually I just turned it over to his department because that's what they do is program. So, but I'm really proud of my involvement with that program. And I'm actually currently one of the co-chairs of the Veterans Employee Resource Group. So that's kind of an extension of my involvement with that. The other thing would be food for fines. Back in, it was 2013, Steve Potter had on his goals that year to start a food for fines program. So I was tasked with doing that with Jerry Hale, who was the branch manager at our Blue Ridge branch at the time. She's since retired. I was really happy to work with Jerry. She's a breeze to work with, just a great person all around. So we came up with the proposal and the procedure for the food for fines program, and we've been doing it since 2014. We just did another session of that here in May. And since that time, we've collected 186,583 non-perishable food items that have been donated to various partner charities all throughout our district. Each branch has a partner local to their service area. So donations are largely staying where they're done. So and that was kind of intentionally built into the program. So I'm really proud of that because that really hasn't cost us much, little staff time, and that's a lot of assistance we provide people. So those are just some of the things beyond just the day-to-day library stuff. When I started at Excelsior Springs, it was 2010. It was a lot different back then, and a lot of our branches weren't real involved with the communities. So at the time, we were encouraged to become more active with Chambers of Commerce in particular. So I joined the Excelsior Springs Area Chamber of Commerce. Within a couple of years, they had me on the chamber board. I was on the board for 9 years. We first were awarded the medium-sized business of the year in 2014. And then I served as chairman of the board from 2019 to 2020. COVID started my last month. So that made the transition out of that to the next chairman pretty interesting. So I got off of the chamber board after that. After 9 years, I needed, a break. And fortunately, I had Abby Douglas as my assistant manager. She's from Excelsior Springs. So she was able to join the chamber board, and she's currently the chairman of the board this year. So that's something that we've both been heavily involved in, and that's opened a lot of doors in the community, enabling us to form stronger relationships with the city government, the school district, Parks and Rec department, all of whom we've worked with regularly. For instance, I'll give you an example. We were in the first group for renovations back in 2018. We were going to be closed for a few months to do that. So I was actually approached by the city manager and a couple of the city council members for them to offer us to use the Hall of Waters as a temporary location while we were closed for renovation. So we did that. And we actually were able to maintain about 30 to 35% of our normal circulation while we were closed, just working out of a temporary location in the city council chamber. Actually, there's room about this size. So that was that. I think that just speaks to how much the city, has been willing to work with us. And the other big chamber thing is this weekend actually is Waterfest, which is kind of probably the biggest thing going in Excelsior Springs. It's a chamber event. Abby is on the verge of losing her mind this week, but she'll get through it. I'm there to help her with that. So, but if anybody's up around Excelsior Springs this weekend, stop by Waterfest. The library is actually going to have a booth out there in the children's area to promote the summer library program. And we go out there every year to promote programs, and we march in the parade on Saturday. So with that, I'm going to just turn it over to Abby and let her talk a little bit about herself.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Stephen. So I was surprised and delighted to hear that I was the recipient of the Jackson Award for Community Spirit. But I did want to say that for me, having community spirit has been pretty a seamless transition, because when I started in public libraries in 2018, I was very fortunate to have Stephen as a mentor. He kind of guided me into working with this community that I already know and love. And I don't want to take too much of your time because there are lots of things that we do, particularly working with the Chamber of Commerce, but I'll just enumerate a few of them. When I started in 2018, Stephen nominated me to be the secretary of the West Side Committee. That's a committee of businesses on the west side of Excelsior Springs, which is primarily a commercial district. And it gave me a chance to work closely with other business owners and make connections that have then gone on to smooth the way for us to do library programs and connect with people at the community center and in the city. So that was really great and kind of my first foray into working in the community and opened my eyes to what it might mean to work in public libraries. I previously was working in academic libraries, so I was extremely excited to see all the possibilities. And then I became familiar with the Read and Feed program that some of our branches were already doing. And I felt like, looking at the work that Stephen had done with the Food for Fines program and meeting the need of food insecurity in our community, which is known to us, that was something else that I wanted to get involved in. And he encouraged me to kind of take that on as a project. Unfortunately, we didn't get as much participation as we might have wished to have. And Stephen said, when you're doing a library program, it's important to remember the audience that you're serving and knowing when things need to pivot. So at that point, I had been nominated to be on the chamber board, and I worked with the board to create a farmers market committee for the downtown in Excelsior Springs, which is a food desert. And we were able to create the farmers market, offer EBT so that people who receive that program can have access to fresh fruit and vegetables. And it's a great opportunity for us to do story times. This is a shameless plug. We have story time at the farmers market at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. So if you all want to come by Excelsior Springs, feel free. So we'll be doing that. And that was kind of a project that was near and dear to my heart. And then as I got more involved in the chamber board, as Stephen mentioned, our flagship festival that we have is Waterfest. And yes, it is this Friday and Saturday. And I was asked to be in charge of the Waterfest parade, which brought me into the executive committee of Waterfest. And there's a whole new experience for me. But I got to be involved in that. And it's just a lot of fun. But I think that the rest of the board saw my work with the parade and making Waterfest happen and making it successful. So they asked if I would then become the chairperson of the Chamber of Commerce, which was quite an honor and a surprise, and has been great. It's been a great experience, and I really loved it because, as Stephen mentioned, I am from Excelsior Springs. I was born and raised in Excelsior Springs, my hometown. I still live there, and my extended family lives there, and I have a lot of connections in the community. So it is kind of easy for me to have that love and spirit for my community. And a lot of our branch staff live and work in the community, and they have those connections as well. And so it's a lot of fun to come to work every day in the same branch where I went to story time, I developed my love of learning, and I experienced new ideas. And it's that ability to access programs and new ideas and things that you might not otherwise receive in a community like Excelsior Springs that makes me so passionate to bring that to our patrons. And yeah, shameless plug, Waterfest, Friday and Saturday. We will be in the parade, and it should be a lot of fun. Thank you all.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just a thought, as I listened to these two speak and thinking about last month's presentation, when people question the taxpayers' investment in libraries, I think the economic impact of local libraries is lost or absent from the conversation. And the work that you do in support of small business in Excelsior Springs helps boost the economy and kind of give people a living wage. And this is the type of work the branch managers do all across our system, and it should not be forgotten. So anyway, very appreciative of your work. Its impact is very evident. I went up there and she introduced me at as the director of Mid-Continent Public Library, and I could kind of see the room scratching their head. They're like, wait, I thought Abby was the director, or Steven was the director, But it was a great experience, and to see all those small business owners in the room, the majority of whom were women, really just stuck with me, and it was a great experience. And if you can make it up to Waterfest, I encourage you all to do so.
And if anybody ever wants to come to a chamber luncheon, which we have every month, which Aaron is talking about, just let me know.
It was a delicious meal too, right? It was made by some local business, and the bread, I remember the bread just being fantastic.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
Steve.
Oh, yeah.
My musical interests are extremely eclectic. So are you supportive of Zydeco music?
Yeah, I like Zydeco. All right, I'm half Cajun, so I prefer Cajun music.
Yeah.
Zydeco, yeah.
I like Zydeco.
I'll go there.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Cody, if we could just move it on up here so we can recognize some of our wonderful staff. We'll get to that one last. Okay, so first, we are honoring Lisa Campbell for 20 years of service. She's the Reading Rocket manager, and she spent her entire career providing some of the best customer service to customers of all ages. I received a wonderful email about Lisa on Monday for the work she did at the Juneteenth Festival here in Independence. Lisa and a team went out there, and I got to see some magnificent pictures from that event. And the author of the email just said they were just truly remarkable and connected with the kids. And Lisa and team, we thank you for all of your hard work and your 20 years of service. So next slide. Amy Engel from Eastleigh Summit. Yes. And I love these. She received a star review from Publishers Weekly. She has a new book called I Did It For You. She's also published 4 other books, all of which are in the Mid-Continent Public Library's collection. And one of them is in Spanish. And it's always great to hear about the works being produced by our staff. We're truly fortunate to have people like Amy on board. And then we have Lex Lauer from Blue Springs North, who recently published a book of poetry called Return to Sender, Letters from an Octopus. It's currently on order and soon will be added to Mid-Continent Public Library's collection. Next, we're looking forward to your book. And then we'll get to our MCPL Monthly. For those of you who could not attend, the young lady pictured on front is named Nayeli. And she spoke from the podium at that event, and it was truly remarkable. She made some introductory remarks and put all of us to shame. But she is a student of the Riverside School District and a member of the Beyond About tutoring program. She's a great mind who will be using our new Riverside branch. And thank you, Nayeli, for all that you do. The rest of the stories here are, you can read at your leisure. I wanted to focus mostly on the fact that June is the kickoff to our summer learning program. We're doing great numbers and reaching a larger number of people than we have last year. I think we're at 11,000 registrations. YS staff has made 43 visits and reached roughly 10,500 youth in our community. The Reading Rocket 2 has been instrumental in our outreach, and they're doing great work there. Another thing people take for granted or they maybe lose sight of is the sheer scale and complexity of something like summer learning program. So if you were to look at our detailed budget, the investment we make in summer programming far exceeds anything we do in the remainder of the year. And I believe it to be one of our most important programs that has the most significant impact. So thank you, Katie and team, for all the hard work you're doing there. And if everyone isn't registered for the summer learning program, do not show up next month. But anyway, adults can join too. So please register for summer learning program and register the young people you know board as well. It's great. And lastly, we've included a little insert here that was produced by Cody. And what it is it's the library's response to the Secretary of State rule that you've read much about. We've made some minor tweaks to our procedures, but for the most part, Mid-Continent Public Library is in compliance with this rule, and we've prepared this document for your review. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. For the most part, we're confident that everything will be fine, and we welcome any questions from the community or our board regarding our collection development policies. And that is all I have for this week, unless I'm missing something. Please let me know if I am. That's about it.
I have one comment. I had the pleasure of visiting with my 3 children to the Green Hills branch. And I was pleasantly surprised and happy, but also disappointed that the classes offered are full and the waiting lists are full for the entire summer.
Yeah.
So that's been a huge success.
Okay, so I'm gonna. My parents and I, we did kind of a tour of 4 branches, and we stopped at Green Hills. And when we were there, head chef out there was interviewing a guy who had an idea for a cooking class this coming fall. And they will be making apple cider donuts. I've never had them, but it sounds like a wonderful program. And I think my dad might fly back and make some apple cider donuts. But you're absolutely right. We're all booked up, so we have to build capacity and continue on. So thank you to Xander and everybody out there that's doing the hard work that they're doing. That's all I got.
Put them on YouTube.
Huh?
Put them on YouTube.
You can't smell the donuts. We'll get there.
You'll get
We'll get there.
Okay, new business, short-term financing.
Yeah.
Take this, okay. This is to address the upcoming cash flow deficit in the operating account. A little bit of history as we went through the levy and budgeting and the capital plan analysis late last summer and into early fall. We became aware that the assets in the capital plan had been invested with durations in the 3, actually at the time, 3, 4, mainly the 4 and 5th year. And because of the interest rate increases last year, it turned those assets into assets with unrealized losses if we were to liquidate them and to pay the bills on the capital plan. So the alternative was to look at short-term financing to get us through. As you recall, we had Quan prepared cash flow projections. I guess the basement is November time period, although we will start probably to experience negative cash flow somewhere in this, I'll call it the 3rd calendar quarter, be that maybe September. So the option that was evaluated was to do tax, what's the appropriate term, tax receipts financing. This is a maximum of a 1-year commitment from a bank. If we go beyond 1 year, then we're looking at long-term debt that under statute has to be approved by taxpayers. So this is equivalent of a 1-year line of credit. The amount that was requested from banks was $8 million. Over the course of the last few months, Aaron and Quan and staff have looked at cash flow, so they've been able to restructure some of the payments to reduce what at the time when we did this the first time, I think was going to be somewhere in the range of a $14 million hole at the end of November. That's been reduced into something that is in the $8 million range and may in fact be lower if things work out the way they hope. They went to the market with a request. Central Bank, who is our current banking relationship, BOK Financial, Bank of Oklahoma is what that is our trustee for the COP bonds, and UMB was the banking relationship up until Central Bank. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was 2017? 16. So we have or had relationships with all these banks. They did provide quotes. You can see the summary up there. This was discussed pretty much in detail at the Finance Committee meeting. There was no vote taken because it was not a voting item on the agenda, but the consensus of the committee was that we should proceed with Central Bank because they provided at least what appeared to be the best option. And as you can see, their rate, the rate they proposed was a 6.25 fixed. That's 2 points below the current prime rate of 8.25. They do have an upfront fee that Aaron is working on them with to see if we can get that reduced. Hopefully that will be reduced. And all
you had to reduce it to 2,500.
Okay, 2,500. So that 4,000 is not correct. Any situation like this, there will have to be collateral. The good thing with Central Bank is we shouldn't have to transfer that anywhere. It's just an agreement with the other two institutions. If we did go that route, you would have to house that collateral with probably a third party entity. And that's being done in the market now with the excess of 250, any accounts in excess of 250 to require collateral. So you can see the cost, the calculation Quan has up there is for a flat 5-month borrowing at $8 million. There isn't much difference between Central Bank and BOK. UMB, because of the rate, is obviously higher. And then the $5 million was proposed or shown as well in case that turns out to be the deficit. So this would be a floating line of credit. We would draw only what is needed. The budget, I know in the budget we have a $250,000. We should be well below that. So that's what's happened. As I said, with Central Bank, the committee, at least the unanimous consensus was to go with Central Bank. The relationship we have with them obviously includes the checking account, the trust account for both the operating and the capital funds. As you recall, they cut their trust fees for managing the assets in half last fall. They were taken in the range of 60 to 70,000. We got that reduced to a $30,000 fixed rate or fixed fee, regardless of the amount. The operating account we work with them on provides a money market rate of interest. So the cash that's sitting there, while we could manage it more aggressively, we're getting in excess of 4% on that account, correct? On just the operating account. That's not normal in the environment. Typically your operating accounts, you have to be more aggressive in managing and how you manage those assets in just, with any bank. But so this is a favorable relationship. We have my view, we have a very good relationship with Central Bank. They are a key business partner. When you have a key business partner, you can, you get situations like this. And so the recommendation of the committee is to proceed with Central Bank. And that would be the motion that I would put on the table is for staff to proceed with Central Bank and putting the documents together and proceeding with the short-term line of credit for the calendar for the budget year.
Yes.
For the budget year. So this would expire on June 30. Okay. So it expired, and which means, and we would have to redo this next year as well. So the motion's on the table and needs a second, and then discussion.
It's been moved in second. Any discussion?
Just a quick question. To the degree that we tap this line of credit, it would be good to see monthly reports in the financial statement that says we borrowed this money, this is what it is. And so we can understand, are we closer to the 5 million or the 8 million? And because this is credit card debt, and understanding the level of our credit card debt that's okay. Would be important. I understand the necessity of doing this, and so I want to be clear about that. But to the degree that we're in this situation, we should be very mindful and cognizant of to what degree that we tap the facility to be able to use it, so that we can track the cost as we avail ourselves of the needed cash to pay our bills.
Great. Yes, with the central bank, if we choose central bank, the interest will be due monthly. So we will report the monthly interest expenses, if you have any. Also, I believe at the beginning of the fiscal year in July, we will have about $24.5 million in cash. And we won't tap into the line of credit until late September or early October. And we should be able to pay it off by the end of December. So really it's the October, November, December, those 3 months, we may have some interest expenses.
I just had a quick. My only issue with this is I'd like to make sure we have some assurances that central bank will closely monitor our requirements, since we have this cash flow issue in the first place, both in our investments and in financing. So I'm sure you guys have dotted your I's and crossed your T's, but I'm personally, I understand the need for it. I understand the money, but I'm personally a little uncomfortable with the same bank that they're investing our money in the first place. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, right now, the investment side of central bank, they're taking extra step.
Good.
They don't automatically renew for the same term. They always check.
Okay.
Yeah, decide.
Okay, so just to go back, we weren't aware of this when it happened. We became aware of it.
I'm not
as a
blaming
third quarter.
staff.
So subsequent to the October meeting and then the follow-up that Quan and staff, and I think mostly you had, or actually Quan and Susan had at the time, was that any maturities that occur within either account, those inquiries come to Quan in terms of in terms of duration. But again, most the options for investing are very limited under Missouri statute.
I understand.
Basically, we're buying treasury bonds at this point because that's where your yield is with theoretically no risk. So, I understand that this is the best deal for the library cost, and I'm confident that they'll handle it.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, Teresa, on the resolution, I was supposed to, we might want to insert the name of the bank for that.
I have.
So all in favor of the resolution as
Ask for a roll call on this vote.
Yeah.
okay.
Ms. Virgo?
You come back to me, I need to think about it.
Yes. Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Lazio? Ms. Steph? See you on the line.
Did you say Noel?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Ms. Lee Munyon?
Yes.
Dr. Pandolfi? Aye. Mr. Shonda Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Reese? Aye. Dr. Wilson? Ms. Wyckoff? Aye. Mr. Thies?
Yes.
Ms. Virgo?
Give me the assurances, yes. Mr. Johnson?
I had voted wrong, but aye.
Aye.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, we have more.
Here's some announcements.
Okay, so announcements, June 22nd to 27th is the AULA annual conference. Few of us will join there. Obviously, the library will be closed on Independence Day, July 4th. Do not miss July 14th. It'll be the premiere viewing of Book Ninjas versus Aaron Mason, the Legacy Luncheon. And what else do we have? Those are the things that stand out. Yes, so those are the announcements that I have.
Thank you. Trustees' comments? Any? Yeah, please, Bob, please.
And when I make this comment, I have no agenda, no future. I just want to remind everybody, especially Jackson County residents, that Jackson County taxpayers are the majority source of revenue for property taxes. So there's nothing tied to this. Nothing's coming next week.
Yeah, I have just a general comment. Earlier, I think it was last week, there was a remote presentation from Channel 4, Fox 4 at Woodney. And in typical fashion, Xander and his crew were absolutely professional and engaging and just were the perfect face for the outreach that the library can do in terms of services and just participating with the communities that surround the different branches as you so well do. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, I know everybody's looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Okay, that's unanimous. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.